Click. Boom, boom. The last sound they hear is their damn doom. It's time to clean up this sleepy little town.
What's happening, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com, hopping back into the private servers of Tera once again to give you guys an early preview of the brand new Gunner class added to the game, along with Tera's official release on Steam, which is happening on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Tera's been lingering around on the coming soon free-to-play section on Steam for a little while now, and will finally be here in a few days, bringing with it the new Gunner class, along with a few other enhancements to the game with this update. But let's get into it. The Gunner class is a highly DPS-focused range class that pulls triggers first and asks questions later. The overall feel of the Gunner is a lot different than other ranged DPS classes in the game, like the Archer and Sorcerer, especially since the Gunner has a lot more mobility while firing and doesn't have to just stand there and attack at a safe distance. In fact, they have a freaking rocket jump ability, along with another ability that cancels the animations of other abilities for a quicker recovery. Plus, on top of that, they're heavily armored, so they can take a lot more damage than the Archer or Sorcerer. This class actually feels more like a third-person shooter, especially with Tera's combat. So, one major feature that comes with the Gunner that sets them apart from any other class in the game is a new meter resource that you have to build up and manage in order to use the Gunner's more powerful abilities. So, besides mana and health, of course, the Gunner has Willpower, which you gain by using several of their abilities or by killing enemies. After reaching level 10, the Gunner gains a unique passive called Unified Theory Experts that allows them to generate willpower by defeating enemies. This additional resource brings in a whole new element to the gameplay. You'll actually find yourself trying to build up willpower as quick as possible to turn around and use it on some ridiculously devastating attacks. One thing, though, to keep in mind with willpower is that you almost have to continuously try to build it up in order to use it to its full potential. It can only be stored for a total of 60 seconds, full or not. So if you're not continuously building this up, then you're going to lose it and lose it fast. And like I said, with the Gunner, you'll have to have it in order to use some of their most powerful abilities. You'll easily know when you have a full willpower meter, other than looking at the meter itself, because your Arccannon, which is the big-ass gun you get to carry around, will start glowing. Looks pretty cool, actually. Now, before I get into the various abilities and how they work with the willpower, you'll notice that my Gunner is a female Castanic. And yes, there is a race/gender limitation to the Gunner. You have to either be a female Castanic or a female High Elf in order to play the Gunner. But unlike the Reaper, you get to start from level 1. This limitation might be a little lame to some of the players, but I personally like the Castanics, and besides, it's kind of the perfect balance between boobs and bullets. Everyone likes a sexy Gunner. That's kind of why we have Lara Croft. I can say, though, that the first thought that popped into my mind was, that gun looks freaking heavy. Do you even lift, bro? But with that said, the Gunner doesn't just have their big-ass Arccannon to rely on to take out groups of enemies. They can also call upon some constructs that help them out, such as HB-7 and ST-4. A helper robot companion, and a deadly turret that provides awesome cover fire. HB-7 is a construct helper robot that deals moderate damage to nearby enemies once it's summoned, but also aims a healing ray at you as you fall below max HP, so it's constantly healing you. So if the damage the Gunner deals doesn't feel OP, then constantly being healed by your own personal healer might. Her turret, on the other hand, will continually attack enemies within 18 meters for 45 seconds, which is pretty good for breaking up large groups of enemies, or even pulling them to a spot of your liking so that way you can line up for the epic kill shots. When you have your companion active, who stays active for 30 minutes or until death, you can use a couple of commands that help you out. You can order your HB construct to stay in place or follow you with one command, and of course having him follow you is important because he heals you as you take damage. Having him stay lets you use the recall ability that allows your character to travel in a straight line back to your robot buddy from up to 40 meters away. Granted, there isn't anything obscuring your path. If you were to do this with enemies in between you and the helper bot, as we should say, you actually pass right through the enemies, but you still generate the aggro. So you can use this to get yourself out of a really tight spot, or gather just the right amount of enemies to kill all at once with a huge attack, which is something the Gunner definitely has. Another command you have available to you when you have either construct summon is, of course, self-destruct, which damages and stuns enemies within a short distance from the explosion. The nice part here is that you can use the ability if you're knocked down or even if you're using another skill. I can't really give a great example of when this is useful because it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. The only thing I can think of is if you want to reposition your turret and it's no longer on a cooldown because you can only construct one at a time. Otherwise, you're just plain murdering your buddy, which kind of reminds me of Eva from Wally for some reason. And Wally's already sad. We don't want to do that. Now, as far as her gunfire abilities go, besides her most basic attack, she has Scattershot, which, as the name implies, fires a spread of shots into the enemy. Great for groups of enemies coming after you, and a lot of time it fits really nicely at the end of a combo. The Scattershot ability will allow the gunner to gain willpower after each successful hit. Now, one ability that goes hand in hand with Scattershot and helps you gain some distance from your enemy is Rolling Reload. This is designed to dodge enemy attacks, can cancel all skill animations except for Baldur's Vengeance, which I'll get to soon, and it completely eliminates the cooldown for Scattershot. This will let you use Scattershot pretty often, and the gunner may be kind of tanky for a range class, but when you start getting crowded, you need a way out, and one good way out is with Rolling Reload followed by a nice Scattershot, of course. And speaking of ways out, I did mention they had a rocket jump, right? If you use this skill with Rolling Reload, you can get additional distance out of it. Plus, to do the skill, you're firing a rocket at the ground, so of course, that's going to do damage to nearby enemies. So the combo goes Rocket Jump with Rolling Reload into Scattershot. Two of my most favorite standard abilities, and I say standard because the gunner basically has some ultimate abilities I'll get to next, are Arcane Barrage and Mana Missiles. Arcane Barrage fires an energy pulse that damages all enemies within a straight line up to 22 meters, but if you press the skill button again, it detonates and damages enemies in a wide radius with a high crit chance. This one just feels really good to try and detonate right at the exact moment for maximum damage. The other part to this ability is if you have your HB construct out and are within 40 meters from him, when you use Arcane Barrage and you detonate it, your little helper bot fires 5 electronic bombs at the point of detonation for the little extra damage. Mana Missiles do basically what they sound like they do. They look really cool as they curve towards and lock into a target a decent distance away, and instead of Mana Leech on impact, you gain 20 willpower for each missile that hits an enemy, plus you can charge the ability in order to create more missiles, resulting in even more willpower gain. Another ability that helps you generate willpower is Arc Bomb. Here you lob a bomb at a medium distance that bounces a few times before it explodes on impact with an enemy or obstacle. This explosion not only stuns nearby enemies, it also gives you 20 willpower for each enemy hit. So as you can see, there are quite a few ways to gain willpower, but there's also a skill that helps it along even further, and it's called Replenishment. This skill has a really short cooldown, only 6 seconds by the time you're level 65, and it's really your go-to ability when trying to build up your willpower meter. Not only does it give you 100 willpower, it also replenishes 300 mana points, so you can keep spamming your abilities. On top of that, it has a 50% chance to eliminate the cooldown for both Scattershot and Arcane Barrage. Alright, so on to the big guns, and by that I mean the abilities that use the willpower that you've been storing up. The first one is called Burst Fire, and it might be my favorite because it's really fun to use. Once you have any amount of willpower stored, you can use this ability, which is different than the next two I'll talk about. This one fires continuous penetrating shots affecting up to 3 enemies in a line up to 20 meters away, as long as you're holding down the skill button. Not to mention, each successive shot has increased skill damage and crit rate, and slows normal monsters. You can keep firing as long as you have willpower, so if you're shooting into a squishy group of enemies, you can just basically keep going because you're gaining willpower as you kill them. This skill right here is so fun to use, and it's really part of what makes the gunner feel like you're playing as a character from a third-person shooter. Kind of like the Heavy from Team Fortress 2. I mean, just the sounds and the numbers flying all over the screen alone make this ability awesome in my opinion. The next ultimate ability, if you will, is called Bombardment. This is a press and confirm kill type of skill. First you press down the skill button, select a target, and then you pretty much receive an airstrike at that point. 11 missiles come showering down on the location that you picked out. Now, the best part about this skill is that for each successful hit, you gain 100 willpower. So, it's very likely that after using this skill you can turn around and use another willpower based skill. Granted, you have your cooldowns clear. So imagine that, then turn around and follow up with this. Now that was the ultimate ability right there. That's called Baldur's Vengeance, and at this point in the game, level 65 Gunner, it's doing over 15,000 base damage and deals crit damage to all enemies in its path. As you can see, it's pretty crazy. You can take out entire mobs of enemies at once. Yeah, it does have a long animation, and this one you can't cancel out of, but you are in fact invincible while using the skill. So, you know, that's nice. This one has a cooldown of around 6 minutes and uses all of your stored willpower, but if you use it just right and kill enough enemies in the giant blast that it has, you can get back a crap ton of willpower via these guys dying. So consider it a nice return on investment. Anyway guys, hopefully this gets you a general idea of how the Gunner plays, and at a high level at that. She basically mows down her enemies and has no problem going solo, especially with a robot companion healing her all the time and turret providing cover fire. Put her in a group and you've got a pretty nice 5-man army for raids, pretty much any raid. Again, really nice change from the ranged DPS classes already in the game at the cost of just making a new female high elf or Castanic. And unlike some of the other free-to-play MMOs out there, you don't have to pay a thing in order to make them. Definitely look forward to Tera's release on Steam along with the Gunner in a few days on May 5th, and to celebrate this, Inmass is giving out welcome packages for anybody who wants to try out the new Gunner class, which include the exclusive EX TRM mount, Extreme mount I guess is what they're going for, which you see here. Kind of goes along with the Gunner feel, sci-fi feel. Pretty cool. Thanks for watching, guys. For additional information about the Gunner class and a few other changes happening in Tera for the update on May 5th, check out our update preview article at the new MMOHuts.com from the link in the description below, or head over to the Tera game profile for more general information about the game. And until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.